Good morning. Today is February 5th, 2025. This is a work session of the Government Operations and Health Facilities Subcommittee of the Health and Government Operations Committee. Today we are joined by Committee Counsel Lindsay Rowe. We have two bills to take up today, House Bill 33, a departmental bill, and House Bill 777, the Commission to Study African American Civil War Sailors from Delegate Boucher. Let's go ahead and get started with House Bill 33, and we'll turn it over to Lindsay Rowe.
This is a departmental bill. It alters provisions regarding reimbursement of Maryland Corps participants, specifically allows for higher county minimum wage and allows for reimbursement only by cash stipend, not the 529 Maryland 529 account. It changes eligibility requirements for participation in the Maryland Corps program for the young adult service year. It removes the requirement that they be within 3 years of graduation. It sets age requirement of 18 to 25. And it allows for a high school certificate of completion rather than the official Maryland high school certificate of program completion. And for the service year pathway, it removes the requirement that they have an interest in performing public and community service and requires that they be a Maryland resident at least and be at least 18 years old. It expands the Department of Service and Civic Innovation's flexibility in using Maryland Corps funds to allow them to use it for either program, repeals the obsolete Executive Fellows Program within DSCI, and makes other clarifying and conforming changes to their statutory authority and responsibilities. Notably, it combines the reporting for the two programs and removes the requirement that the report include the post-secondary educational institutions at which participants use their awards. There are no proposed amendments on this. I'll note this bill is jointly assigned with appropriations, and the cross-file Senate Bill 248 has been reported out with a unanimous vote from EEE and should, I think, be on third reader tomorrow in the Senate.
Thank you. Delegate Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, Lindsay, just on one of those provisions, I just wanted to understand more what you said about the high school diploma and what that changes.
So the requirement used to specifically say that they had to, so there were options for the high school, have graduated from high school, have a GED, or have the Maryland High School Certificate of Program Completion, and that's changed to a high school certificate of completion.
So that really just covers everything. It's not actually a change. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure I understand. Under the fiscal note, it says there's a potential significant decrease in general fund revenues. Where was the money coming from before? I thought that the actual employer or whoever they were doing their, I guess their service year was actually picking up the financial aspect. Am I wrong on that?
Megan Music, do you have an answer to that?
Yes, I do. And we also have here with us Deputy Secretary Sarah Fleming. So I will pass it over to her to talk specifically about our fiscal note and the budget related questions.
Okay, Sarah.
Sure. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us join you today. The employers are paying a portion of the members' salaries, but we do issue grants that cover a portion as well.
So what change is creating the expected diminishing of or decrease in general funds?
Yeah, so that's actually the blending of the two funding pathways. Because there's required funding right now for Maryland Corps, but higher targets for the service year option, this will allow us to better utilize those resources across the two service pathways.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Chisholm. Delegate Shalega.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Can you tell me how many participants you have in the program?
Sure. In the first year, we had just over 250, and this year we started with nearly 600 participants in the both service year option and Maryland Corps. There are about 100 in Maryland Corps and around 500 in the service year option.
Okay, but they're wrapped into the service year option. It's basically the same thing.
We operate the programs together, but the qualifications for the programs are what's unique.
Okay, and how many participants from the employer side are private companies, and how many are nonprofits and government?
Sure, we can get you the specific numbers. The majority are with nonprofits and government entities, but we do have about 10% of our employer partners are for-profit organizations.
Okay, and finally, how many department employees are there?
Currently, there are around 50 department employees, including our contractual employees.
And then I think I read that you're going to get more pins.
Yes, our proposal is to convert some of our contractual employees. Those are predominantly our member success coaches who work directly with the members to help them navigate their plans and make sure that they have strong next steps for the future. So that is the majority of the request for the increase.
And how many are you requesting?
I can get the exact number. Megan, do you have it off the top of your head? I think it's around 17.
I believe that is correct. Yes, 17.
So it'll go up to 67 staffers. And your total budget?
Our budget is a little bit complicated just because there is a double counting of our special funds and general funds. But our approximate budget for this fiscal year is about 54 million. Then removing the double counting, it's about 34 million overall.
Okay, and then next year's in the budget?
Next year's, we can follow up with you on the specific number.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question for Sarah or Megan? Sarah or Megan, anything else you'd like to let us know about your bill?
No,
For me, Megan, anything on your end?
nope. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to join and to share and answer any questions you may have.
Hey, thank you both for being here. Do I hear, this
Thank
bill
you so
is unamended. Do I hear a motion on the bill?
Move favorable.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the bill. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor of favorable report on House Bill 33, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed to moving this bill forward to the full committee? Okay, Delegate Chisholm and Delegate Shalego. Okay, the bill will pass by majority vote, and Megan and Sarah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too, bye. Let's move on to House Bill 77 and Lindsay.
This bill was discussed last week. It establishes the commission to study African-American Civil War sailors in Maryland. The commission must report its findings and recommendations to the Governor and General Assembly by December 1st, 2025. I did circulate an amendment that was discussed last week. It was proposed by Delegate Hill to add a representative from an African-American veterans organization. And then the bill was held last week. Prior to that, there was a little bit of discussion as well about potentially postponing the reporting date or trying to fold the work of this commission into some existing body. But that was non-specific, so I didn't actually draft amendments to either of those.
Okay. Delegate Boucher, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate all the input so far that's been put in this, and also the letter that came in from Elaine, the Director of Archives.
Any discussion on this bill from subcommittee members? Delegate Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We discussed rolling this in with a group that was already looking into African-American soldiers. Can we get an update on that? Was that possible, or are we doing that, or what are we doing?
Delegate Boucher, what Delegate Johnson's referring to is there was a suggestion last week that if we look back at your bill from last year and under the charge to the commission, item number 1 under section F is the study the history of African-American Civil War soldiers who fought for the Union Army in Maryland. And there was a suggestion that would it address all of your intent for this legislation if we inserted the word "and sailors."
Thank you. I think Elaine with Archives explained out in her letter that the initial commission for soldiers was this temporary. It addressed its mandate to accomplish something. Now this will be completely separate. The problem is it's a bit difficult researching the sailors versus the soldiers, which seems to be a lot more easy. So they want to separate it and dig down into that as a separate issue. But ultimately, I think it all come together, but just need to be segregated since one's the Army and one is the Navy. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. Thanks for reminding me of that. Delegate Kaiser?
So I have a.
Oh, go ahead, Delegate Johnson.
Mr. Chair. So the commission, are they finished with their research on the Army soldiers?
Yes, sir. They produced a report and submitted it to the governor's office.
Okay, so they still have 6 months left on their term, correct?
I believe their term is finished. It finished at it's not, or maybe I'm incorrect on that and misunderstood.
I thought that somebody said their term ran until June.
That's what they said last week.
I'm sorry, you are correct.
Okay, so can they pick up and start on this with the remainder of the time since they're finished with the Army soldiers?
I do not believe that is what Elaine had explained to us. I think it's too much work for them to try to smash it all in by June. So they wanted to have a separate time frame to dig into this additional information.
All right,
Interject.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Johnson. Delegate Kaiser?
Lindsay wanted to interject. I'd love to hear what she has to
Oh,
say.
Lindsay, go ahead. I didn't see you.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that the commission members, they don't have terms the way you would think of like the health occupations boards, for example, like those members having terms. The reason that the legislation doesn't expire until June is so that if they had said, we're not done with our work, we need to be extended, the legislature could come back this session during the 2025 session and extend the bill from last year. So to say that their terms expire in June doesn't really make sense because the report was due in December. So they've done that report, that's done. So if you wanted to add work to them, you would have to extend the bill, put in a new reporting requirement for them, which like I said, that report is passed, so that work isn't ostensibly done. And so you would have to add more than just expect them to try and meet again and do some more work between now and June when they expire.
All right,
Should we
thank you.
kind of think of this like an ad hoc committee and they're together until their task is complete and then they disband?
This isn't in their purview, though.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
that's
but you
not part of it.
you could extend that commission, you could add work to them, you could give them a new reporting date in December. But as far as the concerns about the fiscal note and the staffing from archives, like that staffing addition to fill out that time would still be required, like really regardless of whether or not it's this commission or a different commission, somebody still has to, help them do the research and write the report.
Yes.
Okay, Delegate Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everything that just happened between Lindsay and yourself were some of the points I was trying to get to about extending the commission, the fact that this is not currently under their purview. The only thing I think, Lindsay, you didn't say is, given the usual dates of legislation, be it October 1st or July 1st, they are unconstituted on June 30th and would be reconstituted, that if we wanted it to be this same group of people and extend their report through December, we'd probably have to make this emergency legislation. So it would take effect sooner, I would think, which would allow that same group to stay involved. But we also don't know if those same people want to be involved with this. I would like to think that they would see this as a similar role. So that's all I have to add, but everything else that Lindsay was saying.
And just to clarify, you wouldn't have to do emergency legislation. You would have to have it go into effect June 1st because they expire June 30th. But it wouldn't have to be emergency. But you're right. We would need it to go into effect before they actually terminate.
Delegate Kaiser, anything further? Okay, thank you. Delegate Chisholm.
To save me the time of going back and looking at last year's bill, was it the same fiscal note with one contractual position totaling, well, 66,000 this year? Was it the same last year? And would we be hiring the same person?
Delegate Boucher, do you have an answer to that?
Yes, sir. It'd be the same fiscal note. I don't know whether it'd be the exact same person or not. I think that's up to archives, but it might possibly be so. And they could probably hit the ground running faster than if you brought on someone new. But I think that'd be up to the state archives to determine that.
Well, that's kind of my point is you already got somebody in place and they could just continue to work as it's been stated, because they were obviously paid a salary. Salary usually infers a year worth of work. They obviously finished it before a year's worth of work. And in this current budget physical restraints, because I like the idea of the bill, it's just anytime we're adding money on unnecessarily, if we could do it with current funds, it would be a lot easier to stomach. So that's all I've got. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that's a good point, Delegate Chisholm. Perhaps if there are another 6 months left in this employee's contract, they would just like to stay on at any rate. That would be perhaps the fiscal note would only be half of that at 33,000, but too many ifs there to answer that question definitively here this morning, but I appreciate the thought. Delegate Alston. We can come back to you. I'll move on to Delegate Hill.
Thank you. I see that archives isn't here, and I just wanted to know if Delegate Boucher actually had a conversation with them about any of the stuff since our last meeting. And if not, it just seems like a simple phone call to ask them where they are with this so that we could, maybe we could take a tentative vote and get more information from the archives about what we're discussing. And if they're on board with it, then we could move it to committee.
Well, thank you very much, Delegate Hill. I had contacted the archives and they forwarded a letter. I thought that was more important or better than a phone conversation to be able to forward. I believe it went to Chair Kerr. I think their biggest issue is the existing employee or contractual person that did the last report. They were under a contract just to do that report. They're not an employee. They were just a contractual temporary service use, I believe. And I didn't know I had to go any.
No, I'm just suggesting that if we don't move it, which I hope we'll move it, but if we don't move it, then they should be here at this meeting because they can answer these questions.
Yes, ma'am. I agree. I thought they would be. They might be busy. I had no idea that they weren't going to be here, but I thought they were notified that we're having this.
Lindsay, do you know if we notified them about the meeting?
The interns would have emailed everybody who signed up with testimony and gave an email address to be notified of the meeting. I can't speak to and certainly we can forward the invite to anybody as well.
Hello?
You're muted, Ken.
Oh, Delegate Alston?
Thank you. Okay, so I actually have a motion that I'd like to propose an amendment. I think we should, I'm going to move that we amend this bill to extend the commission from last year, change the effective date to July 1 or June 1, whichever one we need to do to keep the continuity going. I'll defer to council on that part. We changed the purpose of the commission to include sailors. So they would do the research on sailors and extend the due date for their report for another year so that they will have time to do the report.
Delegate Boucher, you said the commission considered that and rejected that approach?
They preferred to have it as a separate commission for whatever reasons. I didn't question it. I'm trying to give deference to the professionals in this to see how they go. But ultimately, I think this bill becomes this committee's and the full committees, and whatever they think would be the best option to make this move forward. I am very much open to these amendments to try to make this thing work.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Boucher.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, Lindsay, do you have this amendment?
Sure, and just to clarify, is
Mhm.
everyone on board with adding the additional member that was discussed last session as well, the last
Yes,
meeting?
Yes.
You take that as a friendly
Yes.
including the amendment.
What, can you remind me? I apologize. What was that extra member?
What's
Oh, I got it.
representative-
I remember now.
Lindsay, do you have everything you need from Delegate Alston to formulate that amendment?
Yep, I believe so. So it will look pretty different than the current bill. It's going to end up
Yeah.
basically striking the current bill and then extending last year's commission, adding to their purview that they should be looking at African-American Civil War sailors, add that member to the commission, and then have a new reporting deadline for them in the December and push off the effective date so that you've got the 2026 session to revisit it again.
Lindsay, what could possibly go wrong with that approach?
Well, I do not think that you're affecting the fiscal note. I think that the fiscal note will be the same. So just to keep that in mind.
Okay, so this is not a solution to the $66,000 fiscal note.
No, I
If
don't
that
believe so.
was Delegate Alston, was that your concern?
That was my concern, and I mean, I don't want to get into the minutia of their contract, but if someone was contracted for a definitive period of time to do a job, then there should be time on the contract. But if they were only contracted to do a job and there was no time parameter, then I could see how that would be a problem. But either way, I've always thought the commission should have been joint, and I think this is what they should have did last year. This is what we should have did last year. We deferred to them, and now we have the problem before us of trying to figure this out. I think with the amendment, we should request an updated fiscal note and see what happens.
I think the best approach would be to request that from state archives, and DLS isn't going to update the fiscal note, but state archives can let this subcommittee know what their feedback would be on a third reader version of the fiscal note, because that's where they would have gotten the information. And also just to circle back on the question about why they're not here, the state archives didn't submit any testimony on this bill, so they wouldn't have gotten any notice in that
Okay.
regard about this meeting, because ostensibly they were not interested.
Right, given that information, Delegate Hill, is your second still in place?
My second's still in place, but I would like the subcommittee, whether that's the chair or a letter from the chair or from Lindsay, to reach out to them. And I think the only question, I would like to move the amendment that I seconded. And then the question will be, do we need to hear from them formally, like next week or the next meeting that we have before we vote on the bill? Or can we vote on it and get information from them in the meantime? But there's still an amendment on the table.
Okay, and Delegate Hill, if we don't like their answer,
Then I suspect some of us will vote it down.
in
And if
committee,
we vote tentative, so the amendment's there. If that doesn't change anything, and we haven't had opportunity to question them about other, permutations and other options, and I think that's what's missing, but I would still vote the amendment. And then it would be up to your discretion whether you want to hold the bill another week or whether until we can actually have them before us, or whether you would want to, I don't think we're in a rush. We're in February. But I think we need real answers. I think there's a sense that most of the members here would like to see this go forward, but we'd like to see a fiscal note that we can stomach.
So is it imperative that we move the amendment today, or would you rather wait for the answers and take the amendment up if
We can take that up with the amendment sponsor.
Delegate Alston?
I think I saw Delegate Shalega's hand. I'd probably like to hear what she has to say before opining on whether to move forward today or not.
Okay, Delegate Shalega.
You're muted, please.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. I have similar questions as, everyone on the subcommittee. And the fiscal note, if this bill is going to move forward, we need the archivist to tell us, do you need another $66,000 to put Maryland Civil War sailors to study that? And, I think we're all having the same question. So I don't know the best way forward. how we go about getting the answers. I'm not comfortable voting for the bill until we have those answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Shalega. Delegate Alston.
I'm fine waiting until we get the answers.
Okay, I'd prefer to hold the amendment to see if the amendment really is the way we want to go. Andrew, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, please, Chair.
Go ahead, please.
I just had a little bit of context because I'm in charge of the email send out to people testifying. They are not listed for the HB 77 list, so they weren't sent out emails. If they want to testify, we send out those emails based on the emails we provide and stuff like that. So I think that we would have to recommend Delegate Boucher maybe to tell them to, sign up for this, witness thing, so we can be able to email them for the next date if they want to be able to say their words on this.
Lindsay already explained, and
Yeah.
and Delegate Boucher doesn't have to do anything. The subcommittee can
We can handle it.
that
Yeah.
invitation.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, Delegate Boucher, I hope you consider this as progress.
I think this is phenomenal progress. I appreciate everyone coming together to chime in on how to make this a very good bill and meet the fiscal requirements. The full committee's chairman emphasized that at my hearing, and I think you guys are all doing your due diligence to fulfill the commitment that was asked of you by your chairman. And I think the subcommittee chairman is doing a wonderful job shepherding this thing through, because it would be a great injustice to this bill if we fumble this or don't get it right. So everything that's necessary to get this thing right is imperative, and I sincerely appreciate everything that is being done on the committee right now. So thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome, and thanks for pre-filing this, so it gives us the luxury of time to work on this. Okay, I'm going to hold the amendment, and I'm also going to hold the bill. We'll revisit it next week, and Delegate Boucher will continue to work his end. We'll invite the commission to join us next week. And anything anybody else would like to add before I adjourn? Delegate Hill?
Yes, you said something. You said invite the commission. I think it would be good to have the archivist and the commission chair,
Thank you.
both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I meant. Thanks for clarifying it for me. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you everyone for your work today. I'll see you on the floor in about a half an hour. And with that, we are adjourned.